Pardon my progress indeed. This episode is for all the outcasts, specifically the outcasts who feel that way because they're innovative. You have new creative ideas, foundational work that you feel like isn't being taken seriously. Whether that's in your actual profession, maybe you're a teacher like I was, maybe you're a business person and you're just not getting your seat at the table, or you got your seat at the table, but it's way in the corner and nobody's really giving you a chance to speak. Maybe you're an outcast in your family because you're trying out a new way of life, or you are starting the process of recovering from a loss, whether that's a divorce, job, medical issue, whatever it might be, and you're just feeling a little misunderstood. You're feeling like you don't belong because the people around you don't understand you. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share some things that I found inspirational from some of the most successful people in the world, both people who are still here and no longer here. And I'm going to give you some specific examples from my life of destructive choices I've made because of being an outcast, in hopes that it will encourage you to not go down that route, that you can learn from some of my mistakes and instead celebrate the ways that you are an outcast and the ways that you are developing who you are and what you believe in, and focus more on the path you're forging rather than on all the paths where you feel like you don't belong. So first and foremost, I have to say that this episode is largely inspired by Ed Mylett. No shocker there, right? I listen to his stuff all the time, but specifically an episode he released recently called Change What You See, Change What You Get. And it's one of his solo episodes, and it was the inspiration for actually the title of my episode, Pardon My Progress. I highly encourage you to hop over to his podcast, The Ed Mylett Show, and listen to that one, Change What You See, Change What You Get. It's a solo episode, and it's only about 30 minutes long. And he talks about just that, about to stay true to your path, to picture yourself winning, to honor the ways that you're different. And again, inspiration for the title, Pardon My Progress. He says that in the thick of a very impassioned speech, which is incredibly inspirational. So once you're done listening to and sharing mine, hop over to his and take a listen to that, because I promise you won't be disappointed. And the other person who this episode is inspired by is probably one you're not expecting, and it's a person who's no longer here anymore. And the buzz about this person, I feel like, has died off a little bit, though his legacy will last for a long time. And that person is Heath Ledger. And so I'm gonna talk about the ways that he's inspired me today too. So to begin, the idea of being an outcast, right? If we're going to define it, it's like you just feel alone. You feel like you're rejected and that you don't belong. Often, let's say you have an idea at work and you pitch it, and maybe people are critical of it. They dismiss it quickly, or sometimes even worse, they're just not interested. They don't give you the time of the day. They don't care to listen. And you just don't connect with them, right? Like you can think of, there's so many cliques, right, at work, or even in the family, where people just seem to always get along, right? They go on trips together, they joke together, you know they're on the inner circle with each other. And you maybe even get a sense that they've been talking about you when you walk in the room. Or based on some of the questions that they ask you, you get a sense that they've been gossiping about you, right? Because those questions, you can tell the questions that stem from gossip, right? Like, have you worked on a new presentation? I heard your last one didn't go so well. Or maybe they don't even say that, but you ready? You ready for this new presentation? Or just whatever it is, you know, right? You can sense when people have maybe been talking about you. And I felt this way at work, but even in my personal life. And the way that I responded to just feeling misunderstood, or sometimes you get losses in life, right? You get losses where it's like, no matter what I do, I just keep losing, whether that's getting laid off or your idea just isn't taking off or whatever it might be. You feel outcasted because you haven't reached the level of success that you thought you would, no matter how true you're staying to yourself. I felt that way for a long time too, because I was a really good teacher based on the results I was getting from my students, but I kept getting laid off. I kept feeling like an outcast at work, like my ideas weren't understood or respected. And because I felt like an outcast, In my personal life, I would often seek outcasts, like other outcasts to date, but people who weren't outcasted because they were creative, people who were outcasted because they were jerks, right? When you believe that you don't belong on the inner circle, you start seeking people maybe on the outer circle who treat you poorly. That's how I felt for a really long time. So a lot of the ways that my feeling like an outcast played out were purposely seeking out the wrong people to date, because I subconsciously believed that that's what I deserved. That because I had had a divorce, or because I was outcasted at work, or because I kept getting laid off, and because I just felt so misunderstood by so many people, I guess I just deserved to be on the outside and to put myself around people who don't really respect me, because at least they're not going to reject me. And that's a really sad mindset to be in, but it's a really real one. And I'm here to tell you, friend, don't go down that road. You'll just end up feeling worse about yourself. I promise you that you will. And so if you're somebody who's feeling like you're on the outside, here's what I suggest that you do. And I'm going to start by alluding to some of my previous episodes. So when it comes to the whole work thing, right? I often felt rejected for my teaching ideas, that it was just too outside of the box. And I felt that way because nobody ever really gave a shit about what I was doing or wanted to learn about it. Or there would be some things that I was doing that were really successful with the students, but that was overlooked. That wasn't acknowledged. It was just, oh no, I've never done that before. I don't know. But it was going well with the kids. But that was just overlooked because it was something that certain people weren't used to. Or like I said, people just weren't interested because my ideas or ways of doing things maybe didn't fit with what they knew, or the calendars that they created, or the timelines that they had. So the good news is I continued to do me, right? Like I knew that what I was doing was a process involving growth, right? Like everything that I did as a teacher, I was learning from what I was doing and I was getting better at it. So it wasn't just like this stagnant way of this is what I do. It was based in growth and adapting and changing and learning from the environment around me, as well as what was asked with me by the standards or with what the students needed. I was learning based on all of those things. And so I knew that because what I was doing was based in growth, and that I was constantly trying to continue to learn, that was a good sign that I was on the right path. Also, through other ways of just growth and discovering inspirational, successful people and putting my energy into listening to those people, right? So like, I've told you this before, I stopped listening to gossip radio and started listening to Jay Shetty, started listening to Ed Mylett, started listening to Brene Brown, reading books by Michelle Obama, like all these successful people. I discovered that in their own ways, they were a little bit of outcasts too. So it's like, oh yeah, people didn't understand them either and the choices that they made. They were kind of on the outside for a little while. So that in itself made me feel less alone. But I also learned about things like the reticular activating system, right? That's where we will see whatever it is that we're looking for. Right? So if we expect to be outcasted and misunderstood, and we look for that at every turn, because I can promise you, I got to a point where I was looking to be misunderstood. I expected it. In fact, I once said to a fellow teacher who I used to work with, people aren't going to want me there because they don't like me. And I remember she said to me, is that what you think? And it was. And she just kind of went, okay. And kind of left it there, you know what I mean? But I remember in that moment, I was like, wow, this has built up so powerfully for me. And maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't, but whatever the case, it had built up so powerfully for me that I just expected to be rejected. But through the study that I had done, I realized that we also can attract what we're looking for. And I got to a point where instead of just focusing on the people who were rejecting me and the places I didn't belong, it's like, no, I can start to see the places where I do. Instead, I can start looking for that validation from the people who are maybe on my level, or from the people who do see me because they were there. And I'm going to leave names out of it, but if you remember a past episode where I said the closet can be cozy, instead of just secluding myself, I think it was like my third episode or something like that. So go back and take a listen, because that's where I go into a lot of detail about the workplace in particular and finding those who you identify with. I started seeking out a woman who I had noticed at meetings who actually did listen to me and who I noticed didn't talk as much as the other people because she was listening. And I always just felt a good energy about her, and I started getting to know her. And instead of secluding myself and getting kind of caught up in bitterness, I spent more time with her. And guess what? She believed in me. I could actually talk with her about my ideas. She supported them. She built on them. She shared her ideas with me, and I grew even more because of her wisdom and experience. Same thing with one of the heads in my department, somebody in a leadership position who wrote me a beautiful recommendation letter when I resigned, by the way. I invited him into my classroom to watch me because I could tell in conversations and trainings that I had with him that he was taking my ideas seriously. So I invited him to watch me. I didn't operate under that old belief of, I'm not going to be taken seriously anyway, so forget it. I said, nope, I'm going to try again. This person has shown that they might be interested in what I'm doing. I'm going to show them. And lo and behold, he supported me. So wherever you feel rejected and outcasted, there are always people who will accept you, who you can choose to spend your time and energy with, people who are maybe more on your level. Because something else Ed Mylett goes into is it's like, I don't want to think like the group. I want to think like me. I don't want to be identical to these people. I want to be me. And what happens if you try to be accepted by the wrong people is you'll just be miserable, and you'll sacrifice your values. You'll sacrifice your ideas. You'll sacrifice your growth. But if you start looking for the people who are maybe a little bit more open-minded, you will find them. And you can grow with them. So when it comes to being an outcast, we're going to talk about how to support yourself, you know what I mean? And it's not just about validation from others, but I do want to encourage you. Just because you're not getting validation from a group that you would expect, whether that be your direct colleagues or your family or whoever it might be, there is somebody out there who will see you. Because all the greats became great for a particular reason. They just needed to be seen by the right people and to continue to build who they are and what they believed in so they could show the right people. So start looking for people, maybe in unexpected places. Look for the people who do support you because they are out there, and start putting your energy into talking with them instead of worrying about all the people who misunderstand you, who you don't want to be like anyway. I highly recommend that. I also want to pause here to say you might occasionally be hearing a car drive by or the wind, and I've got the window open because I live in Minnesota and the weather is finally getting acceptable here. And I say acceptable because I won't call it beautiful until it's at least 75 plus. That's the temp I require, but we're hitting about 60, 65 right now, and that is much better than negative 14, 15, which it was just a few short months ago. So we could all use a little bit of a breeze. So I hope that as I share this with you, you're taking in the beauty of the breeze outside as it flows kind of into my microphone. So start looking for the people who do support you. And then I want to talk about another point that I learned when it comes to progress is that most of the people who have been innovative and groundbreaking and done beautiful revolutionary things for this world were misunderstood. And I've heard Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, as well as Ed Mylett, as well as Brene Brown, as all these great people have all said the same thing. If you're going to do something great, you've got to get used to being misunderstood. Because most people, especially the people in your circle from where you come from, people who've kind of stuck to the same thing, been in the same environment, they're not going to understand you. And many of them have no problem showing that. But I don't want you to think that you're wrong or that what you're building isn't worth pursuing just because the wrong people reject you. Okay? Believe in who you are and what you're developing. Give time to it, even if it's misunderstood right away. And this is where I want to talk about Heath Ledger. Okay, so if you don't know him, he was an actor who unfortunately passed away, I think around 2008, due to mixing medications. And his death was so well known because it came right before the biggest break of his career was released, when he played the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight series. And Heath Ledger's performance is legendary. People will never forget it, ever. They're still talking about it now. Like I said, the buzz has gone away a little bit, but people are still talking about it. And I asked my husband the other day, because I randomly have been thinking about Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker. And I was about 20 years old or so, 19, 20, when that movie came out. So it's been a while. And I asked my husband, I was like, why do you think people were so impressed by Heath Ledger's Joker? What was it? Why do you think it captivated people? Because I would argue, as would several critics probably, that there has never been a villain portrayed in any series, not just DC or Marvel, but really any series. I have yet to meet a villain that rivals Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker. And let's be honest, none of the other Joker portrayals come close. No disrespect to Joaquin Phoenix or Jack Nicholson, or even hell, Jared Leto. But we know nothing comes close to Heath Ledger's portrayal of that character. So I asked my husband, I said, what is it? Why did people fall in love with it so much? And he said, well, Jenna, it was chaotic. You know, his portrayal of the Joker was messy. It was chaotic, but also it was the nerd kind of beating, all the cool guys. And what I mean is like this iconic scene where Heath Ledger walks into the room of the mob, like the mob of Gotham City, and they're having this meeting, and Heath Ledger walks in laughing with that Joker voice. Ha, ha, ha. And I thought my jokes were bad. That's the best impression I got. I'm no Heath Ledger, but I am impressed by him. And then he goes on to just present his plan, and he's not intimidated by, these intense mobsters, right? Who have all the strength and all the resources and all just the I don't give a fuckery at their disposal. And I was like, so what, he said, just look at that scene in general. He's a nerd. If you think about it, the Joker is a nerd. And he went in as this nerd and bested all of these mobsters, these cool guys. And a lot of people can relate to that, right? A lot more of us are nerds out there than the cool kid. And so some of us can relate to that. But Heath Ledger's Joker was wild, chaotic. And people had never seen anything like that before. They had never seen that character played that way. And they had never seen, a nerd-like character really succeed at badassery in that manner. And so I started asking my husband more questions, because he knows a ton about movies and film. That's his passion. So he studied all the behind the scenes stuff. And so he knows quite a bit about what goes into movies and the actors and everything. And so I started asking him about Heath Ledger. I was like, well, how did he do it? How did he become that? Because here's something you might not know. Nobody wanted Heath Ledger as the Joker except for Christopher Nolan, the director-producer. The studio didn't want him. A bunch of the other actors were like, no, are you Heath Ledger? No. Because Heath Ledger was known as a pretty boy. He was known as playing, like I said, the pretty boy heartthrob in the majority of the movies he was in, including one of my favorites, 10 Things I Hate About You. Grew up on that movie, still love it to this day. But that was what Heath Ledger was known as, the pretty boy heartthrob. So many people are like, excuse me, Heath Ledger? He can't play the Joker. No way. And they suggested all these other big name actors to take that role. But because of Christopher Nolan's power, he was able to say, not Heath Ledger's doing it, and kind of to override them. But I want you to pay attention to that, first of all. Nobody believed, or very few people believed, Heath Ledger could play that role. They said, nope, you're this. You're the pretty boy. You can't be this disturbed villain. You can't. Maybe you feel a little bit like that, where your family or your coworkers or just whatever circle around you it is says, nope, you can't be this. We've categorized you as that. Don't believe them. Because here's what happened with Heath Ledger. He did it anyway. Despite the doubts, he didn't give in and go, okay, you're right. They've categorized me as this thing. They don't believe in me. I guess I can't do it. No, he fought harder. And my husband told me a couple different things about how he developed that character of the Joker. And one of them is he basically secluded himself for 3 weeks leading up to like the opening of filming. He secluded himself in a hotel room and just focused on the character and making it. And the 24 hours leading up to his first day filming, he sat in front of a mirror practicing the voice, the face, the mannerisms, everything until he got where he wanted to be. Now that resonates with a lot of things that I've heard Ed Mylett say about successful athletes, people such as Stephen Curry. Sorry, not Stephen Curry, about him being the greatest shooter in the world. Well, the reason is because of how much he practices. I think he takes like 2,000 shots a day or something. My stats are probably a little bit off, but he's already the best, but he keeps pushing. Heath Ledger didn't roll onto the set. He spent weeks and even longer, a whole 24 hours in front of the mirror perfecting his craft. He did not give in to the people who said, no, not this guy, because most people aren't believed in. People didn't believe in Steph Curry either. They were like, oh, this kid, he's not that great. Nobody believed in him, or very few people did. But he showed up and he did it because he knew he could and he believed in what he was doing. So Heath Ledger devoted himself to the craft. Devote yourself to what it is that you believe in. Allow your subconscious and your conscious mind to be drawn to it. Focus on your thing, whatever that thing is, whether it's your book or your business idea or your parenting plan or your art project, your painting, your song, whatever it is that you do, become obsessed with it. Focus on it, even if other people don't believe in you. Here's the other thing Heath Ledger did, and this lends to the point of what I was making about if you're feeling outcasted or misunderstood for your ideas, start looking for the things that support your ideas. Okay? Not just the people who support you, but the things. And what I mean by that, before I get into the Heath Ledger thing, I'm going to talk about myself again for a second. The articles that I was reading, the way that education was developing, the things I was seeing in the entertainment industry, all of it lent itself to the kind of curriculum I was trying to develop. People didn't always believe in me, but the things that I was trying to teach did. So what I mean is, like, I'll give you an example. I've been very passionate for a very long time for teaching students about the power that addictive technology has, like phones, right? iPads, all that stuff. Several years ago, as part of analyzing your sources unit, right? Like determining what sources are reliable and valid and deciphering that, I showed the documentary, The Social Dilemma, which is all about how social media was developed and designed to track what you're doing and get you addicted through dopamine hits, right? And therefore get you to buy the things that are advertised. Now, I showed that documentary to my students as part of the evaluating your sources. I was often misunderstood because it's like, well, why aren't you talking about author bias and things like that? And I eventually did, but I put the majority of my focus on The Social Dilemma because it's like, well, no, in this day and age, this is what kids need to know, that anything they're reading online, anything that pops up to them online is designed to get them to buy something, designed to get them addicted. So to me, that seemed like the most important lens for students to have, to know, hey, this is designed to get me addicted. So what I'm reading isn't necessarily something that's being fed to me for educational purposes. It's being fed to me because they want me to buy something, right? That still checks the boxes of evaluating your sources, but it wasn't something people were used to. But it made sense. And now the science is catching up, right? Now more and more science is coming out and more school policies are coming out about cell phones and iPads because they're seeing the addictive tendencies that it builds, especially post-COVID. So maybe not everyone around me understood what I was doing, but the science supported what I was doing. The student reactions supported what I was doing. I watched kids be more intentional about actually putting their phones away until the end of class, and I worked at a school where there was no policy. So I saw the results. It was beginning to happen. So maybe the people around you don't believe in you, but you might find that if you have a project, more and more ideas, or you have a goal, more and more ideas might start piecing it together with that. So to circle back to Heath Ledger, I found this absolutely fascinating, and I could relate as an artist. One of the things that inspired his performance of the Joker was an interview with a musician known as Tom Waits. And you can search this on YouTube and it'll pop right up. Just search for Tom Waits Joker interview and you'll see it. Heath Ledger was inspired by this bizarre-looking musician who just almost seemed like he was drunk or something in this 70s interview that he was in, but the voice and his mannerisms were chaotic and squirmy, but like this voice that this man had. And mind you, Tom Waits wasn't necessarily playing a character. He was just a musician in an interview, right? He was speaking the way he speaks, but it was this dry kind of, well, I don't know. I feel like I'm at my grandma's house. Like I can't even do it, but it's bizarre. But somehow Heath Ledger heard this and drew on it for inspiration to play his Joker character. He used it, and this is part of what he practiced in that time that he was sequestered in his hotel room. And if you watch that interview with Tom Waits, it's uncanny. Heath Ledger is an Australian pretty boy, okay? He is a very stereotypically attractive man, but also he's not even from the US. He's from Australia. So he has an Australian accent. So not only did he have to learn how to play this villain, but he had to play this villain with an American accent. And Heath Ledger did that. He studied this interview with this musician, combined pieces of his own inspiration, and developed probably the greatest villain ever played or portrayed in the history of movies. But he drew inspiration from what was around him. So maybe people aren't supporting you, but if you have a vision, like Heath Ledger had a vision, like, no, I'm going to play this villain. I'm going to create something people haven't ever seen, and I'm going to devote everything to it for this time period, no matter what the haters say. You will find that the things that you see around you start lending itself to your project. If it's really what you were meant for, and it's really where your heart is, and it's on a path that helps people, right? Like, I'm not trying to say go follow your path if your path is to murder and steal from people. Don't do that shit. I'm talking about the stuff that's good for the world, right? The stuff that inspires people, the stuff that serves people, is the things that build and connect humanity. When you're focused on that and you believe in what you're doing, you will see that the sources around you lend to it. Heath Ledger believed in the kind of villain that he was trying to create. And he had his eyes open for pieces that would help him create that, and he did it. Despite the criticism that, no, you're a pretty boy, you can't play this villain. He did it. So whatever your idea is, to kind of summarize the takeaways, whatever your idea is, number one, don't go down a self-destructive path because you think you belong on the outside. Believe in what you're doing. If you know that your heart is in the right place and you have this strong pull to do the thing that you're doing, keep going. Keep going. And intentionally set your sights on the people who will support you. Start looking for those people. And the way to do that is simply, you can do it simply by journaling. Like literally when you wake up, write down, I will see the people who support me today. And write that over and over again until your mind subconsciously adheres to paths that take you towards the people who are going to help you level up. I promise it works if you stick to it. So number one, believe in what you're doing. Don't go to the outside and search for people who are going to confirm your place as an outcast and make you feel less than. Look for the people who support you and can help you level up, because I promise they're there. Number two, Believe in what you're doing enough that you allow your mind to become obsessed with it. And by that, I just mean, instead of looking for all the ways that you don't fit, look for the what's out there that supports your ideas. So, for example, for me with writing stories, I like writing fantasy and magic right now. So I'm always looking to the magic of the natural world, right? So for me, I'm always paying attention to the trees and what they're doing as the seasons change, or the flowers and how they grow. I'm paying attention to other artists too. I'm constantly reading other books, studying people like Heath Ledger, because I want to be a revolutionary artist. I don't necessarily want to be an actor, but I want my art to change the world. So I study people who have changed the world with their art, people like Heath Ledger. And I ask the questions like, how did he do that? What did he do? How did he get people so captivated with that character? And I learned about it. And I'm learning from his wisdom. So be looking for the people who and the things that support your art, the things that can help you build on what you're creating. And let your subconscious be drawn to it. Let your mind be set on it, because the more that you're focused on just what you are creating and its importance and the things that support it, the less you'll worry about the people who misunderstand you, because it does get easier over time. Once you learn to focus on the things that support you and to believe in yourself, it is easier to let go of the critics or the people who try to put you in a box or reject you because you don't fit in theirs. It gets easier the more that you practice focusing on the right things. And one final thing that can help you do this, by the way, and it's something that's served me really well, especially because I'm in a time and space right now where I can kind of set my own schedule. Set deadlines for yourself. That's something that Ed Mylett recommends, is if you have a goal or your project, create a deadline. Because if you know that you have to have something done by a certain date, you will naturally think more about it. So let's say at work you have this project you really want to present. Even if people don't want to hear it, you can still set a deadline for yourself and make it really, really good. Be like, you know what? I know they don't want to hear it right now, but I'm still going to do this project anyway, and I'm going to get it done by this date and time. And you will find that your subconscious mind naturally sort of gravitates towards it, and you start getting ideas from different places, and you start adding to it until you have this phenomenal project, which when you do present it, they won't be able to say no. Same thing goes for if it's something in your personal life. You know, you want to learn how to play guitar, you want to learn to play basketball, you want to learn to unicycle, I don't know, whatever it is, set deadlines for yourself. Okay, by this time and date, I'm going to buy the unicycle. By this time and date, I'm going to practice at least 20 minutes a day. Whatever it is, set deadlines for yourself, because then you're more likely to be thinking about it and focused on it and naturally kind of adding to it. I hope that some of these tips have inspired you today. And if you've never seen Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker in The Dark Knight, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix right now. So if you have Netflix, just search up The Dark Knight and there you go. You won't be disappointed. I can promise you that. But always be encouraged to follow your path, even if you're misunderstood. Some of the greatest people are misunderstood. But the way that you get through that is you start looking for the people who do understand you and who will help you level up, but also the universe's gifts that help you create your craft. You know, whatever it is that you're building, look for signs. Look for connections, you know, just like Heath Ledger found Tom Waits' interview and was able to pull that into his art. There are forces out there that are supporting you if you just look for them. I'm so grateful for you and your time. And please, you know, share this if you think it would encourage somebody else. Share this episode, pass it along. And in the meantime, I do want to thank you for coming.